Now, the United States has in recent years given Georgia more than just its unflinching support, having trained and armed its military. One man who thinks this means Washington has a lot more to answer for in the South Ossetia conflict is Paul Craig Roberts. He's a former Assistant Secretary to the Treasury during Ronald Reagan's administration, and he joins me on the phone now. Hello, thanks for joining us. Now, you've published an article saying the entire world knows the outbreak of conflict between Russia and Georgia was entirely due to the U.S. and its Georgian puppet, Saakashvili. Now, what's the basis for such strong claims?
A militarily insignificant state such as Georgia would not attack a Russian population on Russia's borders without a green light from the United States government. The Georgian attack had two purposes. One was to ethnically cleanse the separatist Russians from South Ossetia, and the other was to convince the European members of NATO that delaying Georgia's membership had made Georgia a victim of Russian attack. The American neoconservatives have published their plans for ringing Russia with American bases in order to establish American hegemony over Russia. And the American government wants to control the oil flows to the west.
Mr. Roberts, what do you think does the U.S. have to gain with such unwavering support for Georgia?
Americans themselves have nothing to gain. What is operating is the dangerous ideology of the American neoconservatives, whose goal is to exert American hegemony over the entire world. The neoconservatives have written that the new American empire is more powerful than the Roman Empire because America is so powerful it can control the entire world.
Mr. Roberts, in your assessment, what are the underlying reasons for Georgia's attack on its own province?
To ethnically cleanse South Ossetia of Russians, thus ending the secessionist or separatist movement.
Mr. Roberts, you say the Western media, especially in the United States, have fallen for government propaganda. Now, why should they tell the line when some U.S. media has previously opposed its own government-led wars, such as Iraq?
No important part of the United States print and TV media has opposed the U.S. invasion and occupation of Iraq. Indeed, the invasion could not have occurred without Judith Miller at the New York Times printing lies about Iraq, just as today the New York Times prints lies about Iranian nuclear weapons, which do not exist. There has been no independent American print or TV media since 1997, when President Clinton permitted 5 oligarchs to concentrate the United States media in a few hands, dependent on the U.S. government for broadcast licensing.
So it's not about self-esteem.
The opposition to Bush and his aggression is entirely an Internet phenomenon.
Finally, Mr. Roberts, if the U.S. is as implicit in the design of this conflict as you say it is, where does this leave the relationships of Washington, Europe, and Moscow?
Russia no longer has troops in the constituent parts of the Soviet Empire, but the United States still has troops in Germany, in Japan, in Korea, and in more than 700 bases around the world. The United States turned NATO, which was originally a military alliance against Soviet intrusions into Western Europe, into an auxiliary army of the American empire. NATO troops are now the main military force attempting to occupy Afghanistan for the Bush regime. The United States is Russia's greatest enemy. The American-Israeli neoconservatives intend to neutralize Russia by placing American military bases in Poland, the Czech Republic, Kosovo, Ukraine, and Georgia. These governments have been purchased with American money. Europeans need to realize that remaining allies with the United States means that Europe will eventually be brought by America into a war with Russia. Most European people know this. The problem is that the American government purchases with money the loyalty of Europe's political leaders. Russia and China are the only countries capable of resisting American world hegemony.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Roberts, for your opinion. That was Paul Craig Roberts, who was a former Assistant Secretary to the Treasury during Ronald Reagan's administration.